best-selling series of all time. Writer and illustrator Jeff Kinney here to chat about Diary of a Wimpy Kid Christmas, Cabin Fever on Disney Plus. Thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, thanks. I'm glad to be here with you.
The electricity going out, the family all together, nothing could go wrong, right?
Right, right. You know, that's how Christmas feels even when the electricity doesn't go out. It feels like the walls are closing in, you're with your family. It can be a little bit intense.
Now, over a decade ago, the first book came out, or this book came out. Was it inspired by a particular holiday? Was it something that you were like of a fear? What was this book inspired by?
You know, it's all getting hazy. I can't even remember the difference between my real life and Diary of a Wimpy Kid anymore. I think it's that anticipation as a kid to really want something, and then to be on your best behavior to get something, and then for something to go wrong, maybe it's in your control, maybe it's out of your control. But that's what this is about that intense feeling around the holidays.
Let's talk a little bit about Wesley Kimmel, who is voicing the character of Greg. Talk a little bit about casting him, and what it's like, especially for you, the movie versions, now these new versions that are coming out on Disney Plus. Like, what is it like to see your animations and created, come to life?
Yeah, it's funny because I realized I was starting to count yesterday. I was like, wow, I think I've worked with 11 Greg Heffleys because we've done live action movies and a few musicals and things like that. So this is my 11th Greg. But it was really fun working with Wesley. He's a pro. He brings an edge to the character that I think that is really needed for Greg. And of course, he's got to be in contrast with Rowley, who's really an innocent character. So he was really perfect for the role, and it's really cool. It's a privilege to write down words on a page and then to have actors perform those words.
Now, you started writing this before you became a father, and we're now reaching a generation where young kids were reading these books when they first came out.
I'm already starting to encounter kids in their professional jobs. Like today, here I am at a studio, and I've met some people who grew up on the books. So it's really that's humbling. Of course, it makes me feel a little bit older, but it's also really cool to know that there are these kids that read my books and have gone on to become productive citizens.
As far as the stories go, because originally I think I had heard that the books weren't intentionally written for kids. It was written as for adults. Do you think it's that perspective that really resonates with kids? Because sometimes kids feel like they're treated like kids, but sometimes they have these big ideas and big things are going on around the world that they want to be a part of that conversation.
Yeah, and I think that's what it means to be a wimpy kid. It's sort of like Greg knows that he's powerless in the world. He knows that all the big decisions are being made for him. So that's why I'm trying to reflect it. Greg isn't just wimpy because he's like physically weak. It's just because he doesn't have a lot of agency in his world.
As far as some advice we can give to all the families out there, because you never know what's going to happen with snow, with rain, with cars breaking down, travel plans. This might happen. Cabin fever might happen to a couple of families out there. Prepare us a little bit about what might happen.
Yeah, it could, and if you get snowed in, even if you don't have electricity, as long as there's daylight out, you can read a good book in the window, and I have a few to recommend.
And especially No Brainer, new book that just came out. Talk a little bit about that, because it's dealing with a lot of the things that are going on in the current school system that a lot of kids are talking about.
Yeah, it was fun to do a real satire of the American education system, and I really wrung out the sponge on it. I go from everything from budget cuts to book bans, and then Greg has to become the principal for the day and try to turn the school around, and of course it proves to be impossible. So I think that book is my most messagey book that I've ever written, but it was fun to write about that topic.
I had just heard that you want to make your books as part of Disney Plus films. Is that something that we can look forward to coming, maybe multiple times a year, or maybe something next year?
Yeah, I hope so. You never know with Hollywood and streaming, but the hope is that we can make many more of these, and we've got lots and lots of stories to tell.
As far as Cabin Fever goes, let's talk a little bit about the other voices that are in the film, and just kind of bringing those characters to life, because sometimes we may think, oh, we miss our cousins or we miss our aunts, or this is what happens when everyone kind of has to be forced together, but kind of casting everybody else to be part of this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it was a real privilege to work with people like Eric Casera and Chris Diamantopoulos. It's like these are professionals, and when they get in the booth, they just knock down their lines. And they in person, they're very different from their characters, but they really infuse those animated characters with a lot of life.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Christmas Cabin Fever, coming to us December 8th on Disney Plus. And happy holidays to you.
Thank you, Rudy. I appreciate it. Happy holidays to you too.